cup of coffee, mad scientist. And I find this highly disturbing. Sometimes if you've got technology that overrides ethics, that's never going to end well. This comes from Daily Mail and is by Jonathan Chadwick, June 15th of 2023. Scientists have stunned the world by revealing the creation of synthetic human embryos in a lab without eggs or sperm. Now just let that sink in just a second. The breakthrough by Cambridge University and California Institute of Technology experts could soon provide insights into miscarriages and genetic disorders. However, synthetic embryos are not covered by laws in the UK or in most countries around the world and come with serious ethical and legal issues. Scientists who were not involved in the achievement have now shared their concerns about the technology, with one calling it chilling. Professor James Briscoe at the Francis Crick Institute said, quote, "It is important that research and researchers in this area proceed cautiously, carefully, and transparently. The danger is that missteps or unjustified claims will have a chilling effect on the public and policymakers. This would be a major setback for the field," end quote. So in other words, tell people what you think that they want to hear instead of the reality of this. The synthetic human embryos were grown from embryonic stem cells, special human cells that have the ability to develop into different cell types, from muscle cells to brain cells. Professor Briscoe stressed the profound ethical and legal questions that now arise due to the work, announced on June 14th of 2023 at the International Society for Stem Cell Research's annual meeting in Boston, and first reported by The Guardian. Professor Briscoe said, quote, "Unlike human embryos arising from in vitro fertilization, IVF, where there is an established legal framework, there are currently no clear regulations governing stem cell-derived models of human embryos. There is an urgent need for regulations to provide a framework for the creation and use of stem cell-derived models of human embryos. An embryo is the early stage in the development of an animal that lasts from shortly after fertilization until the development of body parts when it becomes a fetus. When the embryos do not have the beginnings of a brain or a beating heart, they do include cells that would go on to form the placenta and yolk sac. It's unclear, however, whether they could continue maturing beyond the earliest stages of development." Professor Briscoe pointed out that the Cambridge, California team hasn't published a research paper or even preprint about their achievement, so, quote, "It's not possible to comment in detail on the scientific significance of this story," end quote. He said, "Although it is very early days, synthetic models of human embryos based on stem cells have a lot of potential. They could provide fundamental insight into critical stages of human development. These are stages that have been very difficult to study, and it's a time when many pregnancies fail. Fresh insight might lead to a better understanding of the causes of miscarriages and the unique aspects of human development," end quote. Dr. Ildam Ackerman, associate professor in functional genomics at the University of Birmingham, said the development has significant implications. Dr. Ackerman said, quote, "Obviously, this research can provide a deeper understanding of how tissues and organs form, potentially leading to the advancements in regenerative medicine and the treatment of developmental disorders. Nevertheless, the ability to do something does not justify doing it. Ethical frameworks should be established and maintained in line with the public's view on the subject," end quote. The international team's synthetic human embryos best resemble blastocysts, clusters of dividing cells, and an early stage of an embryo. The embryos were cultivated to a stage just beyond the equivalent of 14 days of development for a natural embryo. Although the international team referred to them as synthetic embryos, they are not truly synthetic because they were not created from scratch, according to Dr. Ackerman. She said, quote, "Instead, they were derived from living stem cells that originate from an embryo. Essentially, what scientists do is cultivate a single stem cell and encourage its growth into an organized group of cells that, in theory, possess the potential to develop into an implantable embryo. This report suggests that there is now proof that human embryonic stem cells can potentially become embryos," end quote. Professor Roger Sturmey, a senior research fellow in maternal and fetal health at the University of Manchester, said synthetic embryos could reduce the reliance on real human embryos for research. He said, quote, "The work builds on a steadily growing foundation of research that demonstrates that stem cells can, under very specialized laboratory conditions, be persuaded to form a structure that resembles the embryonic stage called the blastocyst. In normal development, the blastocyst is an important structure, as it is around this time that the embryo begins the process of implanting into the uterus and establishing pregnancy. We know remarkably little about this step in human development, but it is a time where many pregnancies are lost, especially in an IVF setting. So models that can enable us to study this period are urgently needed to help to understand infertility and early pregnancy loss," end quote. Professor Sturmey said that there is still much work to do to determine the similarities and differences between synthetic embryos and embryos that form from the union of an egg and a sperm. He said, quote, "UK lawyers, ethicists, and scientists are presently working to establish a set of voluntary guidelines that ensure the research on synthetic embryos is done responsibly." Okay, let's unpack this just a little bit. He said, as far as that last sentence, that lawyers, ethicists, and scientists are going to set guidelines to as far as ethics. The ethicists, what is their foundation of belief? Because there's a lot of different belief systems. There's a lot of belief systems that very much have great reverence for life and living beings and at what point life begins. So there's a question about what are these ethics based on? I find this article, like I said, very disturbing. The fact that they're determining, okay, what is human, what is not human. We've taken this cell and we've created something that could potentially turn into a human. And if they go forward with this, which more than likely somebody somewhere will do it, are they going to tell anybody about it? Probably not. I think all this is fallen angel technology. I think it's like lots of things in the world, they're trying to take God out of the equation, that the devil's trying to make man in his image. So I find this, like I said, highly disturbing. So you can let me know what you think. If you've had experiences with paranormal, supernatural, encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, mad scientists, my God, a world that has absolutely gone mad. You can send me an email, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com, and the email address will be there in the description box, as will the link to the article. And if you're like, hey, Orlando, this is perfectly fine. Let's create chimeras and, robot humans, the cyborgs, and all this stuff. Hey, I'm open to listening to other ways of thought, as long as it's presented in a respectful manner. Yes, I've been recording late, and it's the reason you get ramblings and you get lots of bad edits. But yeah, I'm willing to listen to other points of view if it's done, like I said, in a civil manner. And if you want to agree, that's fine. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Prayers are always appreciated. We've had a rough couple of weeks, folks. So know that you're loved. And Lord willing, we'll see you on the next cup. Bye.